Okay, so I simulated the first week, and already I found a mistake that I made, but that's okay. We'll learn from that. So I'm at the email screen right now. You get it up here. You can see I have 3 unread emails, and I got an outreach report for this linebacker that I invited, that I went to visit. And he accepted my visit, so no other team actually offered him, or if they did, then he chose to have me visit him because his mom can only buy or not buy or bake so many cookies, right? And what we have here is basically just a quick summary of what happened. It went well. They had good conversations with him, and we got 7 recruiting points of bonus. We also got 2 scouting points, and this was the thing that I forgot, that when you actually go to home visit people, then you get the interview for free. So the mistake that I made was that I actually spent 5 scouting points on interviewing him. So here I could have saved these 5 scouting points because the home visit actually gave me a free interview. The problem now is, of course, that if he had accepted some other team to come visit him, or if he had done some of all these other things with some of the other teams, then I wouldn't have gotten the home visit and I wouldn't have gotten the interview for free. So I wouldn't have interviewed this guy. Anyhow, so now that we have an interview of him, we can actually see his ratings. And this guy, he really doesn't care if you're persistent. He doesn't need to feel wanted. What he does value is market size. And he also values being close to home. And since the Golden Grizzlies are in the West 12, or the equivalent of Pac-12, we have a good factor here on market size, which will definitely give us an advantage over, I don't know, maybe Mountain West teams or teams that are close but aren't playing in the Pac-12. But he also values close to home pretty much, which will give me a slight advantage over teams of other good markets but are further away. He values winning a little bit, not enough to worry about, and he values prestige a lot. So definitely it'll be an issue for us when we see that Southern Cal and Stanford, that's USC basically, and Stanford are recruiting him because he likes them a lot, and they are also in the same conference as us, and they probably have bigger fan bases than us as well, and they're probably also fairly close to his home. And again, we can see our interest, which is 37. That's not a lot, which gives us some sort of indication about how much our points are worth. So that's what we got there. Let's look at the other guy. So we attended a high school game for this guy, and now we got the coach grades. And I earlier mentioned that these top out in the high 30s, but this guy is ranked 215. So we shouldn't expect to get even into the 20s with a guy ranked this low. Still, my impression is that probably these grades are a little low. And we can go up here and we can look at his commentary. So he studies hard, which is good. Sort of gives some sort of indication maybe of his intelligence or his work ethic and stuff like that. Yeah, he has decent work ethic up here. But the other parts of the description doesn't really mention anything on field, which is an indication that there isn't anything particularly interesting to highlight regarding his performance on the field. He still might have decent attributes, but nothing like stands out so much that our coaches noticed it in their commentary. And we can also see, I was just auto assigning these talking points, but we can see that when you do that, the AI will simply distribute them. And we got 3 hits, which is good. So that's some free recruiting points on this guy. I will leave these alone for this tutorial, because I assume that I've already explained basically how to handle these. And let's see. These should have been unlocked for some reason. We'll have to patch that. Or maybe they'll show up next week. We can also see that I didn't get any hits on Henry Gates. If we go down back to the dashboard, we can see that the recruiting news are starting to tick in from the newspaper. And in the first weeks, Darren Francis here, our pundit, he will start highlighting the top players. And as you can see, there is a long list of players targeting this guy, which is basically more or less all the biggest teams in the country. And we changed it for the 21 version so that teams will be a bit more optimistic at the start of the season. So very early in the season, you'll see a bunch of teams, like this is maybe like 20 teams targeting a player. And these teams will just, they're basically giving him a call or contacting him and say, well, you can come to us. You're definitely good. You're one of the best players in the country. So you just know that this is an option. But over the next couple of weeks, you will start to see that these lists dwindle significantly, and it'll end up being the usual, 3 to 5 teams competing for him, as all of the smaller ones bow out. But initially, teams will be a bit more optimistic, and then they'll revert to a more conservative stance where they bow out as soon as they notice that they have no chance. And again, we had one single commitment this week. After all, it's just the first week of the season. Players will be committing, at an increasing rate as the season goes on. So you won't see a significant amount of commitments until week 4, 5, 6, and then it'll really pick up pace after that. So don't get super stressed if you don't, get 3 or 4, 5, 6 weeks into the season and you don't have any commitments. Players need, or the recruits need a bit of time to sort of decide where to go. And they also want to, give you a chance to convince them. And you can also see that the recruiting mail has arrived. Our first recruiting mail, obviously, this will fill up as the season goes on, unless we delete them. So if we go back to our recruits, we can go to scouting. We don't have anything here, but what you will notice is that out here, a bunch of them will no longer say not applicable. And this is because we unlocked these traits with the interviews. And what particularly catches my mind is this clutch quarterback, which sounds very much like something that we would like to have. So let's go to Jonathan Travis. And actually, that's weird. Let's just go back and see if we can find him. Maybe we didn't interview. Anyhow, so these are the opinions that were supposed to be unlocked on the other guy. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. Anyhow, so here we have the opinions, and he thinks that the Western 12, which is where we are, is definitely the most attractive conference to play in, and that is of course based on the people who have offered him scholarships. And now you might say, well, he's recruited by only teams that are in the Western 12 right now, so this doesn't really make any sense. But the important thing to remember is that what's listed here are only the teams that are where he has above 50 interest. So he might be recruited by more teams than the ones that are listed here. For instance, my team. But this gives me an indication that these are the teams where he has more than 50 interests. And there might be teams from outside the Western 12 who are recruiting him as well. He also really likes that we are the most successful team, and I assume that's because we just started a new game and it doesn't have a lot of history to go from, or maybe because we won week one, the first week of the season. But currently he likes our winning streak or our record history. So that's a good thing to notice. And I would assume that this will change as the season goes by, and Southern Cal and Stanford start winning lots of games, and we fall into the middle of the division where we probably belong. We can also see that our recruiting points down here, or our talking points down here, we got a hit on playing time, and presumably that's because Stanford and Southern Cal and UCLA probably have better players than him, and he likes the prospect of actually getting playing times with our team. So let's just for fun boost this up to 2. And I can maybe say a bit more about these as well. So the academics is basically at the beginning of the season when you set your budget. If I go into staff here, we can get our rudimentary budget. So you can see that we have a total budget of 11.5 million. We spent 8.6 on our salaries for our coaches. Then we have 2.9 allocated or extra infusion into scouting. And then before the coach hiring phase finishes, you have the opportunity to to transfer some of these funds into academics, which is basically additional support for academics. What academics does is for players who do not think very highly of themselves or in terms of their skills. So they have like sort of a realistic view of whether or not they're going to be pro players and get drafted into the pro league. If they don't think that they're likely to be pro players, what they're also concerned about is actually their education. So for non-top tier players, academics will actually matter to them because they also want to get a good education. And everybody knows that if you're on the football team and you're playing Division A football, then that's going to take up a lot of your time. So these auxiliary academic programs will actually matter to players who both want to play football but also, get a good education. You don't have to put any money here, and as you can see, I didn't do anything when I just simmed ahead. But this is basically an opportunity for smaller teams who are unlikely to recruit players who will go pro to sort of lure upper tier mid players to their team by promising them a good education. The other thing I should notice about, or I should mention about these budgets, is that it's already implicit in the school that they actually have a scouting department. So you have a fully functioning scouting department, even if it says 0 here, even if you have no points or no money left after hiring your coaches, So even if you have 0 allocated to scouting here, you still have a functioning scouting department. What happens here is just an extra infusion of money to boost your scouting department. So you can get away with having a 0 here. If you allocate more, then it means that you get more scouting points for your recruiting phase. But you don't need to do that unless you really, really want to scout a lot, or if you can't find coaches that you like, or if the coaches that you like are cheap, so you have some extra money left over. All right, back to recruiting. So we go back to this guy. So that's academics. I haven't allocated any talking points to academics because I haven't, well, the AI hasn't allocated any talking points to academics because the team hasn't allocated any money to academics. But if you're a smaller team, then and you actually allocate money to academics, then you can pour talking points into this one as well to sort of highlight to these mid to upper mid tier players that they will be getting a good education. And then I can, of course, talk about my location and market size. And my organization, that is mainly my staff. So if I have like super charismatic and famous or highly reputable staff in my organization, then I can highlight that to the players, and then playing time and winning, of course. Alrighty. So we got the traits over here. We can also look at their personality, and you can see that now that I have interviewed all these guys, their personality will start to show. So for instance, if I really like something like work ethic, then I can see that we have a quarterback down here that might not be super desirable for me, whereas the center, stuff like that. And we go back to the summary. On the main page, then we obviously have the standard biometric info here. But what's really interesting once we progress through the season is this offers counter. So for this 4-star player that I mentioned, I probably wouldn't be able to get. You can see that he has 12 scholarship offers. And if we look at him, we can see that Penn State, Southern Cal, Stanford, and Oklahoma are not people we want to compete with. And he really likes getting playing time with the Oklahoma Settlers, and he actually thinks the Mid-South 12 is the most attractive conference to play in, even though he is in California. So probably the smart thing to do would be to bail on that guy, even without looking at his personality. This other guy here, yeah. I wonder if this is basically, I think probably we inverted it. So it's showing for everyone that I didn't actually use my outreach points for. Anyhow, it's fine for the tutorial. And again, we get this information that he likes the Settlers and the Mid-South 12. So probably we need to bail on this guy as well. And he has 8 offers, so that's terrible. Yeah, this was the guy we already looked at. We can see his technique isn't super good. But we also see that he throws with perfect mechanics, which would lead us to think that probably his accuracy is good, but and that it is his arm that is dragging down this technique here. And again, we see the big teams on him. So we should probably bail on him as well. And this is the guy that we looked at. You can see his technique is bad again, but it doesn't mention neither arm nor accuracy over here, so that leads us to think that probably both of them aren't really good. And again, we would need to sort of scout him to get a better view of that, but it's just sort of basic indication here. Let's look at the next linebacker. And he really likes the prospect of playing, getting playing time with us. But again, he doesn't value playing time a lot, so we need to factor that in. This guy seems to be a beast, though. He has great grades, not a lot of physique, so he might not have a lot of strength or not a lot of endurance here, but A's across the board other than that. And he reliably takes down the ball carrier, which leads us to think that he has decent tackling. And he has sufficient speed. He's not blazing fast, but sufficient speed should probably be at least in line with probably the fastest linebackers that are currently on the roster. And he's pretty smart as well. So let's go into actions. And really, I should have done this. I hate when I watch people do videos and they don't do the sorting because it's super hard to follow when we for the viewers. It was this guy, right? Yeah, it was this guy. So we definitely like him. But let's just go back to all of them because we know that we're going to give up on this guy, and this guy, and this guy. Oh wait. This. Let's look at the running back here. He really likes the prestige of Stanford. And he likes that we won the first week of the game. He doesn't really have anyone that's recruiting him. So we're definitely going to stay on this guy, even though other teams are on him. Let's see. It was this guy. He has 7 teams pursuing him, but he's not highlighting anyone over here in the recruiting buy, which leads us to think that that right now everyone will probably have fairly low prestige. So let's stay on that guy. And this guy we really liked because of his intangibles, so we'll be staying on that guy as well. The tight end here wants to go to Stanford. Probably, yeah, we need to bail on the tight end. Definitely. So that's this guy. And remember, when you bail on people, I almost forgot. So when you bail on people, remember to remove the scholarship offers. So you get them back up here. And this guy as well, like that. And we also want to hide them because we never want to watch them again. Right, so now I have 3 new offers, or 3 new scholarships remaining. And I have 21 recruiting points that I removed. You can see that I regained my outreach points. I even got a few more. And I regained my scouting points. So let's figure out where we want to place these 21 scouting new recruiting points. So what I'm going to do is, assuming that everyone that I have right here are my primary or first choice targets, which is sort of true, I know that the guys that I'm going to use my last 3 scholarships offers on will be second choices. So I'm only going to save 3 points for those guys, which means that I have 18 to allocate among my first choices. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the summary, and then I'm going to find the ones that only have one offer, because I know that offer is me, right? And I actually see that these two strong safeties that I looked at, they only have offers from me. So I'm not particularly worried about them, but I sort of like these cornerbacks. So let's go to our cornerbacks and find position cornerback. And then you can see it saves the sorting. So if I go to summary, the ones with one offer, it's Kevin and Scott, and they are on top. So I go to actions, and they're still on top. So let's go and max out those. And we can see these guys, we have some competition for them. But they're not listing anyone as, oh, this guy really likes us even, so that's good. And he really likes our prestige, and he likes the proximity, and he likes our winning. So let's go and add a bit more in our location here, just for fun. And also let's bump up these points now that we have extra. Right. And you can see in the parenthesis here, it shows how many points I've accumulated on the guy. And obviously these won't be how many points he values, or this won't, depending on how much he values our points, this number might in practice actually be bigger because of the modifier. It might of course also be smaller. So one thing that I want to show is that if we go, it's just, even though I prefer to interview them for this tutorial, let's just spend all our scouting points here on these guys. So in the next week, we can go in and look at the ratings. We can also do some home visits and outreach points like that. And we still have 10 recruiting points left, but we're saving 3 for these guys. So let's go to quarterbacks and see. So we have 4 guys left, and none of them have a lot of interest. So let's go and look at how many offers. So the 3-star guy is definitely our best option, but this 4-star guy isn't. We'll probably won't get him. The other 4-star guy has the same teams after him, which is an issue, of course. And then the same teams, which leads us to think that probably all these teams need a quarterback. I think since we desperately need a quarterback, let's just stay on these guys, but let's spend our points to just bump up this backup guy, because these guys are looking increasingly unlikely. So we have 2 points left, and let's just throw these onto the last running back here, because we also know we need a running back. So we have 3 points left and 3 scholarships left. So let's go back to all, and then since it's looking bleak with the cornerbacks, let's see if we can find us another backup here. So if I sort by quarterback and distance, then I have this guy here who says sub 500 guy, so that might be an option. If we go to some, we see he doesn't have any offers, so let's get on that guy. He's still within a decent range, and he has no offers, so that should be good. Go to actions, and we can give him a point, and we can, no, we don't have any of those. Scholarship. Good. Oh, wait. Yeah, he's down here. Okay. So that was quarterback. See if we can find a backup running back as well. Within 500 miles, we have this guy, a 3-star. And he doesn't have anyone recruiting him. If he has no people after him at all, it will say none here. If there are some people after him, but they are below 50 interest, then it will say nothing here. So if it says none, it means that no one is recruiting him. But that's also what we can see here. He has 0 offers. So I think let's just get this guy into our targets and go to targets, and we find him here. Yeah. And we'll add a point and a scholarship. And then defensive end. And again, I like to go to the summary to see. So this guy, this 3-star guy, obviously has fewest offers, whereas the 4-star guys, we have some competition. But we're spending 10 on all of them. So probably that's okay. We don't have a lot of competition for 2 of them, so we don't need to panic just yet. Cornerbacks. Oh wait, let's take this off like that. I thought we had some more. We don't have a lot of competition for the cornerbacks either. The strong safeties, we don't have a lot of competition. Probably for this guy, Timothy Denny. He really likes. So you can see that we're actually getting good bonuses over here, and he really likes us, even though we only have 1 point allocated to him. So we're getting more than 1 point on him, but probably the computer is allocating significantly more than 1 point, and but it does. So if we want him, eventually we'll have to, we have to drop more points onto him. But for now, let's focus on the critical aspects. If we go to the linebackers, yeah, again, it's the 3-star guys where we actually have a chance. We will leave these for a bit longer before we bail out, but probably we'll have to bow out eventually. But let's get another linebacker with the last scholarship. We go to all, and then go to some distance to get a rough filter. This is not good. The best guy within the distance is ranked 800, so let's shoot a bit higher. Is that really true? That seems weird. Oh, it's because I'm on. It seems. Okay, so there are people here. They're just very far away. Yeah, there we go. That makes me weary for our chances. So let's instead get this guy. Yeah, let's get the strong safety instead. Yeah, give him a recruiting point. Oh, we spend all our recruiting points. Okay. It's because I accidentally added 2 to this guy. Like that. Okay. So we have spent all our scholarships, we spend all our recruiting points, we spend all our scouting points, we spend all our outreach points. So we are ready to go to the next week. let's do that. Let's see, check our emails. We could also basically just go to recruiting, and then we get the emails as well. And what I wanted to show you with the recruiting points is that if we go to our actions here, we can see that the guy, the cornerbacks that we scouted, 20 points is the maximum amount of points you can spend on scouting. And when you spend 20 points, he's fully scouted, as it were. And when you reach 20 points, you actually get an email about the player, where it gives you some additional information. And especially this early in recruiting, information is the be-all, end-all. And the additional information that you get is their potential. And this is actually the only indication you get in the whole game about the hidden potential rating. And you can see that the first cornerback, Michael Boehm, has about average potential. And another one has really good potential, and another average, and another average. And now we have Ned Page here that has amazing potential. The important thing to remember is that even if potential matters for how much and how fast they progress, so over 4 years, a guy with amazing potential, all things equal, will improve more than a guy with average potential. But because players can differ so much in how good they are to begin with, a good player with average potential will usually be better than a bad player with amazing potential, because it takes some time to catch up, and obviously you want to field as good players as possible at any point in time. And we can see that the cornerback also accepted our visit, so we got our free interview, and we got an extra scouting point, and we got some extra recruiting points. And we even got a really good recruiting point bonus for this Kevin O'Connor guy as well, for the other home visit that we did. Right. So the thing is that once you spend 20 points in scouting, the report will be done, so to say. But if, for instance, you want to get the email again, then you can actually click refresh here, and it will resend the email after the sim. So basically, this is just adding another point of scouting to the guy, which will trigger the email again. So that's a useful little tip in case you accidentally deleted the email or just want to look at it again. So that's a good little tip. So we can also, now that we've fully scouted these guys, we can see that our certainty is close to max, or as close to max as it gets. And we can look at the scouted attributes. And you may notice that here some of them are left blank, and that is because they will only turn in the report for the relevant attributes for the player. So our kick distance isn't super important for a cornerback, so that's why it's not bothering with filling out those parts of the report. So again, we can see that the attributes come out in letter grades, like the American school system, with C's and B's and B pluses and B minus, etc. Just like the scout grades up here. But there is an option, and I can try turning it on over here in settings, league options, where instead I can set it to descriptive words. And remember to save. And then we can go back and look at this player. And personally, I prefer the words. I think it gives a bit more immersion as opposed to as opposed to the grades, but that's all obviously a matter of personal preference. So yeah, so here we can see again, now the letter grades are replaced with words. So we can see that he has remarkable agility, he has average strength, and great tackling, etc. So there are a couple of things to notice or to bear in mind regarding these attributes. So the first thing is that the letter grades, by their nature, given that it's A, B, C, D, and F, if memory serves, and then even with pluses and minuses, that evens out at like, I don't know, 12 or 14 total grades. Whereas if you're using the words, there are, and again, I can't remember the exact number, but I think maybe 23 words. So you will actually get a more fine-grained evaluation using the words than the grades. If you have a hard time understanding, is remarkable better than great, then up here in the tooltip, we have a tooltip somewhere, or you can find it on the forum. There is actually a listing of the words in terms of how they scale, so you can determine if fine is better than remarkable, etc. And the other thing to know about these scouting grades, and that is true whether or not you're using the grades or the words, is that these are based on the players that are actually in the league. So when we're trying to determine the speed of James Wilcox and do the scout report for the speed of James Wilcox, what it will do is it will look at the cornerbacks, his position, the active cornerbacks in the game, and it will look at their speed ratings and calculate sort of a benchmark for, it's not strictly the average, because we're sorting away some of the absolute worst players that are sitting on the bench on the bottom teams that will actually never, see a football field. But it will create a benchmark based on the players that are already in the game. And then it will evaluate the players, or rather, it will evaluate the coaches. It will evaluate the coach's judgment of the player's rating against that benchmark. So when we see unique here, what we actually have is our coaches looking at this player and coming to some sort of judgment about how fast he is, and then comparing that against the benchmark of all players in the league. And the interesting thing about this is that over time, unique might change. So in 20, maybe unique right now is, 90 speed or 95 speed or something like that. But in, 20 seasons or something like that, depending on how the player pool shakes out over time, the benchmark might actually change based on the players that are currently in the league, so that unique might be a lower or a higher number, because it's relative to the players that are already in the league. Alrighty, I think I have been talking forever now, and I direly need coffee. So I think for the moment we will call this tutorial done, and then possibly we can come back with some house cleaning in case there were stuff that I have forgotten. Be sure to check out our forums at wolverinestudios.com. Also be sure to enjoy and participate in the communities, both at the various Discord channels that are set up by now. You can find they're promoted on the forums, and also on the Steam pages. And also be sure to visit the SimNation Slack and the SimNation Discord. And feel free to spam us in any case you, in any, regarding anything you like. If you want clarifications or if you have suggestions, we really try to listen to you guys. And we know that this sort of tutorial has been long overdue. So with that said, I hope it was useful. Take care out there.